Yamba Church incident among atrocities that were witnessed during the post-election chaos, Kinoti vowed that security apparatus is adopting a proactive approach to handle such cases to deter any recurrence.
Kwa hivyo kwa wale wako na uoga, hata mkirudi wajaribu tu. Iko wengine wataona haya, lakini mimi nawaambia tu wajaribu. Wacha huyo anaona sisi wenyewe kusema jameni wacha tuishi kwa amani, huyo mtu achie. Lakini kwetu wacha tukae na undugu tukipendana.
The DCI also urged all victims and witnesses of the chaos to come forward and provide any information they hold. Ben Troy Njue, reporting for Channel 1 News.
To the latest COVID-19 statistics now, the country is not close to flattening the COVID-19 curve, as 413 people have in the last 24 hours tested positive, increasing positive cases to 77,785. The Ministry of Health says over the same period, another 12 more people have succumbed to the virus, pushing the death toll to 1,392.
Out of the 413 positive 19 cases confirmed in the last 24 hours, Nairobi County leads with 229, Mombasa has 14 cases, Kiambu has 22, Busia recorded 18, Uasin Gishu had 15, while Kajiado capped the top 6 list with 12 new cases. According to Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe, 396 patients have in the last 24 hours recovered from the disease, 326 from home-based care program, while 70 have been discharged from various hospitals. The total recoveries nationally are 51,903. 12 patients have succumbed to the disease, bringing cumulative fatalities to 1,392. The national government says 1,182 patients are admitted in various hospitals, while 7,142 are on home-based isolation and care. 52 patients are in the intensive care unit, 32 whom are on ventilatory support, while 16 are on supplemental oxygen. Meanwhile, church organizations under Kubali Consortium want the National Hospital Insurance Fund to rescind its decision of not funding COVID-19 treatment. The consortium has launched an initiative dubbed Kubali Campaign, aimed at training church leaders to provide psychosocial and material support to the vulnerable in the society. Irene Mchuma Udim, Channel 1.
The University of Oxford in England has developed a coronavirus vaccine that, according to a large-scale trial, shows it can stop 70% of people developing COVID-19 symptoms. The Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine is currently in the final stages of testing. The development has been described as both a triumph and a disappointment after vaccines by Pfizer and Moderna showed 95% protection.
The global race to find a vaccine for the dreaded deadly novel coronavirus is steadily picking up. Scientists across the globe working around the clock to ensure the severity of the disease is at the very least controlled. Researchers from University of Oxford in partnership with AstraZeneca are the latest to offer a ray of hope after developing a vaccine which has a 70% success rate. In a tweet, the institution says, "Today marks an important milestone in the fight against COVID-19. Interim data shows the Oxford vaccine is 70.4% effective, and tests over 2 dose regimens shows that it could be 90%, end of quote. This, it says, is one step closer to supplying it at low cost around the world." The Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine is currently in the final stages of testing. The development of the vaccine comes as earlier developed vaccines by Pfizer and Moderna showed 95% protection. It is, however, reported that the Oxford injection is far cheaper and is easier to store and supply to every corner of the world than the other two. If approved by regulators, it will still play a significant role in tackling the pandemic. There is also intriguing data that suggests perfecting the dose could increase protection up to 90%. The Oxford researchers have performed the process of developing the vaccine in around 10 months. More than 20,000 volunteers were involved, half in the UK and the rest in Brazil. There were 30 cases of COVID-19 in people who had 2 doses of the vaccine and 101 cases in people who received a dummy injection. When volunteers were given 2 high doses, the protection was 62%, but this rose to 90% when people were given a low dose followed by a high one. It's not clear why there is a difference.
Is now focused on the BBI debate, where the process of collecting signatures for the Building Bridges Constitutional Amendment Bill 2020 will be launched on Wednesday this week. The Building Bridges National Initiative Task Force says the exercise will be conducted within 1 week and it targets 4 million signatures. This as ODM party leader Raila Odinga dismissing chances of substantive amendments to the report, saying the train has already left the station.
The BBI signature collection exercise is to be launched on Wednesday this week, pouring cold water on those who have been calling for its halt to enable the country deal with the coronavirus pandemic. The BBI National Secretariat says the bill is now ready after it was postponed last week due to late completion and publication of the Constitution Amendment Bill 2020.
Najua kuna watu wengi sana wameanza kusema hii process imekwama. But we want to tell them that this process is on and we are going to take off on Wednesday.
And the bill is ready. The people who are preparing the bill have told us the bill is here and the bill is ready. Can you now move forward? So we are moving forward. The issue of whether there are changes in the bill or not, you ask the people who are dealing with the bill, not us.
The group insisting the process cannot be postponed further, calling on those supporting the initiative to turn up for the exercise that will only last for a week.
Actually, we want to correct 4 million signatures. The requirement is 1 million, but we want to ensure that we do more than the minimum requirement.
Who has a different view right now?
While meeting Mount Kenya leaders, ODM leader Raila Odinga reiterated that it wouldn't be possible to incorporate major changes to the report, considering it was subject of public input for over 2 years.
There are people who may have some reservations, but that is as it is. You can never be absolute at all. And you saw when they talked of Brexit, there were those who supported and those who opposed. Referenda are held all over the world, and there are always those who are supporting, those who are opposing. That is what democracy is all about.
Leaders from the region vowing to drum up support for the report, saying the constitutional changes will bring equity in governance in the country.
As the people of Mount Kenya, we do recognize our past marginalization. We do recognize the gains coming from the BBI initiative, and we will stand with the process.
This as the Kenya Muslim National Advisory Council promised to rally behind the document, differing with SUPKEM that has contrary opinion.
BBI itaondoa kabisa ile tabia ya the winner takes it all, kwamba chama cha kisiasa kikipigiwa kura na kushinda kinaunda serikali peke yake.
Suleiman Yeri, Channel 1 News.
Away from that, the Ministry of Environment has extended the moratorium on logging in public and community forest, which was imposed in the year 2018. Environment Cabinet Secretary Keriako Tobiko said the decision was reached after considering recommendations of both the Board of Management of the Kenya Forest Service and the multi-agency team that was involved in mapping the country's forest resource.
The moratorium shall, however, be modified to allow for harvesting and disposal by Kenya Forest Service of a mature forest plantation for an area not exceeding 500 acres. Tobiko said that harvesting and disposal of the forest plantation material shall be overseen by a multi-agency team and done in a manner that is transparent and ensures value for money. The CS added that the details of particulars of the forest areas to be harvested and the terms and conditions applicable shall be published in due course. Meanwhile, in efforts to combat global warming, an environmental activist, Francis Kavisu, has volunteered to restore and protect the green environment by planting 1 million trees in Ukambani through a community-based organization he started last year.
We have given out 5,000 tree seedlings. So we are happy that 5,000 tree seedlings will be planted within this particular region. And our focus is to plant 1 million trees. This is a 1 million tree program.
Kavisu has already planted 5,000 tree seedlings with the help of 27 local groups and is calling on residents to start the culture of planting trees in their land. Suleiman Yeri, Channel 1 News.
You are indeed watching Channel 1 News. Thank you so much for watching. And I can see Alex Tomokia watching from Kibra, loud and clear. Collins Agesa, you're tuned from Vihiga. Sam Ndunda watching from Nandi County. Hussein Ndege watching live from Sesi Moyale Sub-County. Let's first take a short quick break. We'll be right back with more news.
Ni mimi. Ulitoa pikipiki? Mulitani sitaomoka. Ni yako. Hii nduthi ni yangu. Niliwahi pale Quickbit. Quickbit? Quickbit imekuja kusaidia wananchi kama sisi. Nilinunua 399 shillings. Juu nilikuwa the lowest unique bidder. 399 shillings. Quickbit shilingi moja unaweza nunua pizza. Shilingi mbili unaweza nunua microwave. Shilingi tano unaweza nunua hata gari. So tupeleke huko hata mtu aende huko.
Jiunga na Quickbit ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bidi yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16. Kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bidi yako pia kwenye www.quickbit.co.ke. Kumbuka, bidi ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio hununua. Quickbit, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
When the schools shut, the textile sector came to a halt. We have a workforce of over 300 people that we need to support, and the orders were just cancelled overnight. If we had not gone into PPEs right now, we wouldn't be having this opportunity to tell the story of how Equity helped the local sector by procuring locally. Basically, 100% of PPEs were being imported. I don't think a single local textile industry had thought of manufacturing PPEs. So with Equity coming in, we were able to retrain and repurpose a lot of our labor force. And on top of that, we hired an extra 50 to 100 people when the orders got a bit higher. What the local manufacturers achieved, it shows the Kenyan spirit. We were there to protect our front line, which was helping fight this pandemic. And not only did we fight, we made it a product that meets international levels. There's a lot more that we can do locally. Let's explore and let's see what we can do.
On the next episode of Ashoka,
I order you to go to Takshashila and suspend Sudama, its premier. Once that is done, clearing the path to business will be your priority.
But the more we try to beat him, the more his destiny takes him towards his victory. I must do something to ensure that he dies. Get out of here.
on the next episode of Corner.
Tread very carefully with me.
Mi hakuna karo niliona.
I feel guilty. I couldn't protect him.
From whom? Jimo.
Jimo. Wewe watch DVD kwanza alafu taamua.
Welcome back and thank you for keeping it Channel 1. Moving on, residents of a little-known village in Kangema, Murang'a County are crying foul for lack of functioning maternity facilities in their neighborhood. What is more agonizing, however, is the existence of a maternity wing at a local hospital that has remained unutilized for the last 47 years. Expectant women are said to have endured untold suffering seeking maternity services amid poor infrastructure, even as, ironically, the non-functioning maternity block receives constant facelifts by governments of the day.
Tucked in the heart of a beautiful landscape of tea plantations within Kangema constituency, Ichichi location made up of 10 villages harbors a well-kept secret. An unutilized maternity wing at the Ichichi dispensary, a facility which since its inception in 1973 has offered no service to any local.
Ni dispensary ya Ichichi. Ambayo ilifunguliwa 1969 na late Dr. Julius Gikonyo Kiano. 1973, tuseme kitu kama 47 years ago, tulipewa hiyo dispensary, maternity wing. Na kutoka siku hiyo up to today, hakuna hata mtoto mmoja amezaliwa pande hiyo.
Built 47 years ago, one would expect the building to be in a deplorable condition. But as fate would have it, this block has been subjected to constant renovations by authorities.
Ninakuta kuna renovation inapakwa rangi. Tunatarajia ya kwamba ukikaa siku kadhaa ukojea ati utakuta services zimeanza za maternity, unakuta hiyo rangi imefade na hakuna services imekuwa.
Swali kubwa mtu anaweza kujiuliza ni pesa hakuna, ni wafanyikazi hakuna kwa miaka hiyo 47.
Expectant women have endured long journeys in search of maternity services, the poor roads worsening the situation. Some have been forced to adopt alternative ways to reduce the untold pains, such as opting to temporarily rent accommodation close to health facilities ahead of due dates.
Wakuje watusaidie juu sisi wakina mama wa Isisi tuko na shida sana huku.
Na kama mama sasa ako na uchungu, unaona sasa hiyo hawezi akamake, pengine unakuta watoto wamekufa, wamama mashinda mingi sana. Sasa tuko na ombi tu moja, mimi nitashinda nikirudia hapo, ya kwamba kama tungesaidiwa hospitali yetu itengenezwe, wamama wetu waache kuenda safari mrefu.
And while it is the joy of every expectant woman to have a safe and calm delivery, locals here spend sleepless nights thinking of the life-threatening and torturous journey to health facilities. Kamche Menza for Channel 1 News.
To the corridors of justice now. Nairobi Metropolitan Services Deputy Director of Medical Services Dr. Musa Mohammed and 2 social health workers based at the Mama Lucy Kibaki hospitals will be charged with child trafficking offense. However, the court has cleared the hospital Chief Executive Officer Dr. Emma Mutiso and Hospital Administrator Dr. Regina Musembi of any wrongdoing. Senior Principal Magistrate Bernard Ochoi said the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution had showed investigation had not linked the duo to the crime. Deputy Director of Medical Services at the Nairobi Metropolitan Services, Dr. Musa Mohammed, Clinical Officer Makala Leparan, and Social Worker Selina Awor will be charged with child trafficking offenses after the Director of Public Prosecution approved the charges. The prosecution said investigations had shown that the 3 had a case to answer. Mama Lucy Kibaki Hospital CEO Dr. Emma Mutio and Hospital Administrator Dr. Regina Musembi were acquitted of the allegations, which carry a 30-year jail term.
Then it's a great relief to them that they are now cleansed and their image now looks a better image in the face of the public and the international world.
Also freed were Juliana Mbete, a hospital administrator, and Beatrice Njambi, who is in charge of the newborn unit at the facility. Selina N. Makala will appear before Chief Magistrate Martha Mutuku to take plea, with Dr. Musa expected to take plea after being discharged from hospital. Musa is currently admitted at the Kenyatta National Hospital. Of the 7 medics arrested in connection to the child trafficking ring, 4 have been freed and 3 charged. The suspects were arrested last week when police unearthed a child trafficking syndicate in Nairobi during an operation after it was realized that senior medical officers collude with child smugglers to perpetuate the crime. Elsewhere, Millicent Mudhoni Gethenji, the host of 44 underage school children for a party at the upmarket Nairobi's Mountain View estate over the weekend, has been detained for 7 days for police to conclude investigations. Mudhoni was arraigned alongside 3 suspects who included David Kibe Wambui, George Kamau Mudhoni, and Michael Murega. The prosecution noted that the teenagers were involved in pornography and drugs in the presence of the 4 suspects. The court was informed that David Kibe and George Kamau, who are businessmen in Mountain View area, were involved in the supply of drugs and alcohol to the teenagers. The 3 were remanded at Kabete police station as police pieced together the events leading to the incident. 26 boys and 18 girls aged between 13 years and 17 years were arrested according to a statement by the Director of Criminal Investigations, and are all students in primary and secondary schools in Nairobi, Kiambu and Machakos counties. And Oman Ambassador to Kenya Saleh Suleiman Al-Hadi has hailed the long ties Kenya has had with the Sultanate, saying that his nation is keen on cementing such ties. Meanwhile, residents of Kitengela town are lamenting the never-ending problem of water shortage in the township, accusing both the county and national governments of failing to address the crisis, which they claim has persisted for years now. These and more stories in our county news roundup.
Oman Ambassador to Kenya Saleh Suleiman Al-Hadi, who spoke during the commemoration of his country's 50th anniversary, said Kenya and Oman have a unique bond that dates back to hundreds of years when the Sultan of Oman ruled the Kenyan coast and Zanzibar. He said his country is leveraging on the historic ties to showcase the unique culture of Oman, tourism and flourishing economy. Meanwhile, residents of Kitengela Township are lamenting what they term as scarcity of fresh water in the area. The locals, who claim to buy a 20-litre jerrycan of salty water at 20 shillings and 50 shillings for the same jerrycan of fresh water, now want both levels of government to address their plight.
Shida tuko nayo kubwa ya maji. Hatuwezi kufika hiyo standard ambayo watu watakuwa na afford kununua maji kwa 50 shillings. Na hasa katika area hii, hata borehole ambayo tuko nazo hazitoshereshi population ambayo tuko nayo.
Elsewhere, Nyandarua County government is raising concerns over increased cases of malnutrition in the region. Nyandarua County Health Executive Committee member Dr. John Mungai says despite the county having enough food, children have stunted growth due to lack of proper diet. The concerns coming as experts worry about the increased cases of cancer and other non-communicable diseases in the county.
What we have noted in Nyandarua is that we have stunted children. Our children are not going to the right height. Why? Because as much as they are getting enough amount of food, the quality, the nutrients are not in the right quantities.
And the Global Cleft charity Smile Train has unveiled upgraded surgical facilities at the Nyeri County Referral Hospital in efforts to enhance the safety and quality of pediatric surgeries in the county. Smile Train Program Director in East Africa, Jane Ngige Muturi, noted children born with cleft lip and palate require surgery, and their recovery spaces need to give a feeling of comfort and safety.
Children with cleft have problem eating, they have problems speaking, they have problems breathing, they're prone to malnutrition. It's actually estimated that 1 in 10 die before they get to their first birthday because they're not able to feed properly, and because of that, they suffer from malnutrition and some of them succumb to it.
Elsewhere in Turkana, donkey keepers are calling for the closure of a slaughterhouse in the area. According to the pastoralists, the donkey species risks extinction if the slaughterhouse, which had been closed by the government, continues to operate illegally.
Kulingana na ile ripoti ya KALRO ya mwaka wa mwezi wa 6 mwaka wa 2019, ilisemekana ya kuwa punde zinachinjwa zilikuwa zinachinjwa mara 4 kuliko vile zinazaana. Hii ni kumaanisha kuwa kufika miaka fulani, especially walisema 2023, hakutakuwa na punda tena.
Meanwhile, over 400 farmers from Kangema constituency, Murang'a County, are accusing the Dambo Tea Factory of frustrating their efforts to seek more returns from another tea factory. The farmers are seeking to join Garachage Tea Factory, which they say will offer them better services.
Kuna msaada huwa unakuja unaelekea wakulima, haifiki kwetu. Hatujui inaenda wapi. Tukitaka services nzuri hatusipati.
Hapo mwezi wa 8 tarehe 27 tuliibwa majani mingi sana, senta bili ya Gekegie na Doine B. Hiyo chai ikapelekwa Githapo, lakini kufuatilia hiyo manager alisema hakuna kilo mingi ziliingia kwa Githapo.
Finally, residents of Gitango Village, Kabete constituency in Kiambu County are living in fear of a rising insecurity in the area. In the latest incident, 8 cattle and 40 chicken was stolen and slaughtered in a nearby bush.
Kuna watu wanakuja wanachukua ng'ombe zetu, wanaenda kuchinja, zingine wanabeba kwa mangari usiku, zingine wanachinjia huko kwa kichaka.
Wizi tu ni patoro. Chifu huku alikataa tu sisi tujiendee patoro. Sasa vile kama wakati zamani tulikuwa tunaenda patoro kwa group.
Wycliffe Okech, Channel 1 News.
Further afield, Guinea's government has suspended all street protests in what it says is a move to prevent the spread of the coronavirus. Meanwhile, Uganda's Security Minister Eli Tumwine has defended the police after 37 people were killed last week following clashes with supporters of opposition presidential candidate musician Bobi Wine. The details on this and more in our international news briefs.
Uganda's Security Minister Eli Tumwine has defended the police after 37 people were killed on Wednesday and Thursday last week following clashes with supporters of opposition presidential candidate Robert Kyangulanyi, popularly known as Bobi Wine. Meanwhile, rights group Human Rights Watch has urged Ethiopia to protect civilians living in Tigray's capital Mekele as government troops advance to the city. Elsewhere, Guinea's government has suspended all street protests in what it says is a move to prevent the spread of the coronavirus. The opposition politician who lost last month's presidential election, Dalien Diallo, had called for mass protests this Wednesday. He failed in his bid to get the result overturned in the courts after alleging elections had been rigged. Guinea has been through a period of political instability since the 82-year-old president Alpha Condé changed the constitution to run for a third term. Dozens of people have been killed in political violence in recent months. And Germany says its forces were prevented from carrying out a full search of a Turkish ship suspected of taking weapons to Libya. The defense ministry in Berlin said its personnel got aboard the vessel but had to abandon the mission after Turkey protested to the European Union. Germany is part of an EU naval mission trying to enforce an arms embargo on Libya. Turkish security forces said the Germans had violated international law by not waiting for permission to start the search. However, they said nothing was found apart from aid supplies and other harmless cargo.
Next on.
I heard about the Equity Wings to Fly program. I applied and I was able to get in. They paid for everything, literally everything that I needed.
What are you doing? What does it look like I am doing? Atito, I have never been this petty. This is what is called business.
Those are expensive gadgets.
Did we offend you?
Why would you think that,
I'd like to start an initiative like the one Equity started here to sponsor students.
Next on.
You were the one who's guilty of all of this. You got me into this mess. That guy's been acting strange lately. Keep an eye on him and find out what he's up to. Ramon guy is not even in the slightest bit interested in you. In love with Ramon.
Welcome back. Let's do business, where the national government has contracted a South African expert in advertising to spruce the local conference tourism. The Ricky Taylor company that has been contracted by the Kenya National Convention Bureau is expected to help Kenya activate the strategy on meeting incentives, convention and events MICE.
The Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife is keen to leverage the meeting incentives, convention and events MICE as a way of growing revenue given the high amounts that delegates attending conferences spend as compared to those on leisure. This is after the government contracted Ricky Taylor, a leading South African expert in advertising industry, to push the Kenya's conference tourism agenda. Taylor has been tasked with developing a MICE advertising industry strategic plan in efforts to help secure more international meetings to Kenya.
This is the vehicle that will go out and position Kenya so that we can win the business. How the business gets distributed will then depend on us here on ground.
This comes at a time when the Kenya National Convention Bureau is laying its 10-year strategic plan as well as activation of the MICE strategy for Kenya.
We are basing our strategy on 4 key pillars. The first one is competitiveness, what I talked about. We must first develop a MICE brand. It doesn't exist. We must position it globally.
We want to make sure that there will be facilities in Isiolo that can win a conference, that there will be facilities in Eldoret and Kisumu, and indeed Lamu, if there is one facility that can win. So when the Bureau is out there bidding for Kenya, the buyer will come in, will select what suits them based on what is the outcome that they're looking for.
Kenya's MICE sector represents only 0.2% of the global MICE market, but takes a significant 4th position in Africa after South Africa, Morocco and Egypt, based on the number of international meetings held. Currently, 13,000 meetings are held in Kenya annually.
The Kenya Ports Authority is working with other government agencies to step up COVID-19 testing of truck drivers in efforts to reduce congestion at the Port of Mombasa as well as along the busy Northern Corridor. Kenya Ports Authority Chairman General Retired Joseph Kibwana says despite reduced imports and exports, efforts to increase cargo handling capacity at the Port of Mombasa are underway, with the second container terminal now 60% complete. Here is our coast reporter Michael Mwadiga with the details.
2020 has been a tough year for businesses and countries. The uncertainty surrounding COVID-19 has seen most companies and institutions reducing operations. This, coupled with restrictions that were imposed by countries in the efforts to contain the spread of the virus, saw imports and exports drastically reduce. Kenya Ports Authority Chairman General Retired Joseph Kibwana says despite the reduced cargo handling at the Port of Mombasa, efforts to improve capacity at the facility are still on. He says the second container terminal at the Port of Mombasa that handle an extra 450,000 containers annually, pushing up the port's total handling capacity to 2.1 million TEUs, is now 60% complete.
We are getting Kisumu port working. We are also working on improving the feeder ports so that we expand our footprint on the lake, serving our sister countries of Uganda, Tanzania, and Kigali and Rwanda. Lamu port is coming up very well. The first berth is complete. The first 2 berths will be coming along by October next year, and therefore we'll be proud to say Kenya now has premier ports, and Lamu will be actually one of the most modern ports.
After complaints about congestion weigh bridges along the Northern Corridor as well as around the Port of Mombasa, the Kenya Ports Authority is working with the county government of Mombasa as well as other government and private sector agencies to step up COVID-19 testing of truck drivers. Reporting for Channel 1 Business News from Mombasa County, I'm Michael Mondiga.
Elsewhere, the Kenya National Alliance of Sugarcane Farmers Organizations is calling on senators to push for implementation of the new sugar regulations 2020 that is scheduled to be debated on Tuesday. Implementation of the new sugar regulations was stopped after some governors and senators opposed it on concerns that it was developed without involvement of some stakeholders, such as counties.
A month ago, the Council of Governors expressed concerns that Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Peter Munya gazetted agriculture regulations that had been drafted without involvement of key stakeholders, such as counties. The governors wondered why Munya would pull such a stunt, and agriculture is a devolved function. They therefore called on the Senate to reject tea and sugar regulations. However, sugarcane farmers under the Kenya National Alliance of Sugarcane Farmers Organizations are calling on senators to push for implementation of the Sugar Regulations 2020.
As farmers, we do not want any interference. It looks like the Senate is either fighting the Parliament, National Assembly over agricultural matters, or Parliament is fighting the Senate over agricultural matters. We as farmers and millers seem to be victims of this.
This comes barely a month after more than 6,000 sugarcane farmers signed a petition to the Senate in support of the new sugar regulations. The sugarcane farmers say the Council of Governors and the Senate are yet to meet frontline stakeholders in the sugar industry. The Kenya National Alliance of Sugarcane Farmers Organizations represents farmers who claim to supply 92% of cane to sugar factories in Kenya.
And we are calling on members of parliament from the sugar producing areas to come out full force tomorrow to defeat this intended motion.
Irene Mchuma Odim, Channel 1 Business.
Elsewhere, there has been subdued performance in the real estate sector this year as the Kenyan economy grappled with effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. The latest Sight on Real Estate report indicates that the average rental yields for retail spaces declined to 6.7% due to lower occupancy rates, which saw some developers reducing rental charges.
Confirmation of the first COVID-19 case in March followed by a government recommendation for employees to work from home, as well as closure of all learning institutions and some employers temporarily shutting operations, saw some people move from urban centers to rural areas. This resulted in lower occupancy rates of rental buildings, forcing developers to reduce rent. This, coupled with reduced investments in the real estate sector on concerns about uncertainty of the COVID-19 pandemic, has subdued growth of the industry. This is backed by the latest Sight on Real Estate report, which indicates the real estate sector faced a tough operating environment as the economy grappled with effects of the coronavirus pandemic. In the retail sector, the average rental yields declined by 30 basis points to 6.7% year-on-year, which the report attributed to reduction in rental rates in a bid to attract tenants amid a tough economic environment. The report indicates that rental rates declined by 2.1% to 115 shillings and 10 cents per square feet. In addition, occupancy rates reduced 70 basis points year-on-year to 76.6% due to reduced demand for physical retail space. This was as a result of the government's work-from-home recommendation and growing focus on e-commerce, as well as scaling down of retailers in the wake of reduced revenue inflows. Rental yields within the Nairobi metropolitan area declined by 50 basis points to 7.5%, attributed due to decline in demand for space and the current oversupply of retail space by 3.1 million square feet. Furthermore, there was constrained consumer spending given the tough economic environment and exit by some retailers to cushion themselves against the negative effects of the coronavirus pandemic.
And some of United Kingdom's biggest food companies are opposed to a plan that could see all online junk food advertising banned to tackle childhood obesity. In a letter to the UK, Prime Minister bosses of firms including Britvic, Kellogg's and Mars say they support government efforts to tackle obesity, but said the plans were disproportionate and lacked evidence. Details of this and other stories in our international business news roundup.
The UK government has said it is determined to help children and families make healthier choices. It originally planned to ban online adverts and TV commercials for unhealthy foods that appeared before 9 p.m, but strengthened these in November. The UK Prime Minister is said to have changed course after being hospitalized with COVID-19, something he links to being overweight. The proposal, which is still under consultation, could usher in some of the toughest digital marketing restrictions in the world by the end of 2022. Under the proposed plan, firms would not be able to promote foods high in fat, salt or sugar in Facebook ads, paid search results on Google, text promotions, and posts on platforms such as Twitter and Instagram. Elsewhere, Chinese President Xi Jinping has called for a global mechanism that would use quick response codes to open up international travel. The codes would be used to help establish a traveler's health status, but human rights advocates warn that the codes could be used for broader political monitoring and exclusion. Xi made the comments at the G20 summit, an online meeting of heads of state from the world's 20 largest economies, hosted by Saudi Arabia. He said the codes could be used to recognize health certificates based on nucleic acid test results. QR codes are barcodes that can be read by mobile phones. Finally, COVID-19 concerns have cancelled the big gatherings for one of the biggest holidays in the US and a generator of billions of dollars in travels and food sales. That is Thanksgiving. As officials warn against travel and in some places, bar gatherings of more than 10 people due to the pandemic, the limits have raised questions about the impact on Thanksgiving. Among poultry producers, the likelihood that small gatherings this year could loosen loyalty to the traditional turkey dinner has raised fears of a surplus of the fowl, especially of larger birds. But a silver lining is popping up for some restaurants, as Thanksgiving takeaway packages are popping up at restaurants across the country, as chefs from Michelin-starred establishments to highway standbys look to reinvent themselves for the COVID era. Betty Kiptum, Channel 1 Business.
It is an all-Egyptian affair and a first for CAF as two home teams face each other in the final of the 2020 CAF Champions League in Alexandria. Al Ahly will be all out to maintain their dominance in the elite African clubs competition against their arch-rivals Zamalek, who are raring for a fight to the death. You cannot afford to miss this thriller on the 27th of November only on your true sports partner, KBC Channel 1 from 10 p.m. We have a lot in store for you. Be on the lookout. They showed their might in the inaugural FIBA AfroCan in Mali with the silverware. They are ready to make it even better in the FIBA AfroBasket 2021 qualifiers in Rwanda. Let's rally behind the Kenya Morans as they take on the opposition from Angola, Senegal, and Mozambique from 25th to 27th of November on your true sports partner KBC Channel 1 in their quest for success. This is just the beginning. Save the dates for the best.
Time to play, and we begin with the Sekafa Under-20, where our national football Under-20 team Rising Stars started their 2020 Sekafa tournament campaign on a high note after hammering Ethiopia by 3-0 in a match that was played earlier today in Arusha, Tanzania. The Stars will next play against Sudan this Friday in their final Group C match.
Rising Stars showed an exemplary performance in their first match of the ongoing Sekafa tournament in Arusha, Tanzania. The Stars, under the tutelage of Stanley Okumbi, ruthlessly hammered Ethiopia after goals from Benson Omala, who now features for Kenya Premier League Gor Mahia, and Enoch Wanyama and Ronald Reagan gave the team the win.
Mapema hivi dakika ya 37 na namuona sasa anajiweka sasa, ingiza ndani tena kule. Amen. Bayeni anaongoza nafasi. Oche geretenga ile.
Kenya will play against Sudan this Friday in their final group match, with the winner of the group qualifying for the semi-finals. The finalists of the tournament earn an automatic slot to the Under-20 African Cup of Nations.
Akajitahidi lakini ndio hivyo tena. Ni Benson Ocheng yule.
Congratulations to our boys. Elsewhere, embattled Confederations of Africa Football CAF President Ahmad has been banned from all football-related activities at both national and international level for 5 years by FIFA. The ban was announced amid the Madagascar officials' campaign to be re-elected for a second 4-year term as the head of the continent's confederation. In a statement, the adjudicatory chamber of the Independent Ethics Committee stated that the committee found Ahmad and FIFA Vice President guilty of having breached Articles 15 and Articles 20 of offering and accepting gifts or other benefits and Article 25 of abuse of position. Further afield, Barcelona defender Gerard Piqué will be out for a reported 3 to 5 months with knee ligament injuries. Piqué suffered a knee injury during Saturday's 1-0 defeat by Atletico de Madrid. The defender now joins Ronald Araujo, Sergio Busquets, Ansu Fati and Samuel Umtiti in Barcelona treatment room. The injury has added to coach Ronald Koeman's problems. The Dutchman now has just Clement Lenglet fit as the natural centre-back. Saturday's defeat puts Barcelona in 12th position, 12 points behind league leaders Real Sociedad. Barcelona will also be without defender